Let's talk about the cloud. You know, we all use it. We trust it with our photos, our work, pretty much our entire digital lives, assuming it's all safe and we can get to it from anywhere. But what if that whole idea is built on a bit of a myth? Today, we're diving into a hidden truth. The cloud actually has borders, and crossing them can mess with your data in ways you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, we all have this picture in our heads, right? The cloud is this one massive global thing. You upload a file in New York and you can download it in Tokyo. Simple. But is that really the full picture? Well, the answer turns out to be a whole lot more complicated.
All right, so let's break this down. The marketing promise from these big tech companies is fantastic, isn't it? Everything syncs perfectly across all your devices, you never have to worry about losing your data, and it's all just there, wherever you are. And look, that promise is mostly true, but only as long as you and your data don't cross certain invisible lines.
And that invisible line is really the heart of the issue here. It's this great digital divide. See, the cloud isn't one big happy family. It's actually chopped up by geography and national policies, creating these invisible walls that decide how, where, and sometimes if you can even get to your own files.
This whole thing really boils down to two completely different philosophies. On one side, you have regions that put security and control first. They demand that their citizens' data stays on local servers, subject to local laws. On the other side, you have regions that are all about openness and convenience, using global servers to make everything work smoothly across borders. And that one fundamental choice is the real reason for all the headaches we're about to get into.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, let's take a look at three huge companies that I'm sure you know: Apple, Google, and Xiaomi, because each one of them gives their users a completely different version of reality.
Okay, first up, Apple. A lot of us just think iCloud is iCloud, one seamless service. But behind the curtain, it's actually a split ecosystem. Here's how it works. If your iCloud account is based in mainland China, your data is not actually managed by Apple. It's run by a local partner, GCBD, and it's all stored on servers inside the country. Everywhere else in the world, Apple handles it all on their global servers. So what happens if you travel between them? You can run into really frustrating sync issues, payment problems. It basically feels like you're trying to manage two completely separate accounts. Now, if Apple's situation is like a split system, Google's is, well, it's more like hitting a solid brick wall. In some parts of the world, their services aren't just limited, they're often completely blocked. For anyone who lives in the Google ecosystem, and let's be honest, that's a ton of us, this is a huge problem. Imagine you're on a business trip and suddenly you can't get to your files on Google Drive. Your vacation photos stop syncing to Google Photos. Your Pixel phone isn't getting security updates. You might even be locked out of your Gmail. It's a massive inconvenience, especially for people who travel a lot.
All right, for our last case study, let's flip the script and look at the opposite problem with Xiaomi Cloud. This is a service that's built to be amazing locally, which creates its own unique set of problems for anyone trying to use it internationally.
You see, in its home market, Xiaomi Cloud works great. But for international users, it's a different story. The service can be less reliable, and here's the kicker: it doesn't really play nice with the Google services that most of the world depends on. So what happens? Users are forced into this really clumsy situation where they have to manage and pay for two different cloud systems, and they're constantly struggling just to move files between them. It's not a great experience.
So you might be thinking, why is this all so complicated? Why don't these companies just fix it? Well, the truth is, a lot of the time, their hands are tied. They're stuck dealing with complex government policies that are trying to pull off a very difficult balancing act.
If you look at it from a government's perspective, it's a genuine dilemma. On one hand, they want to protect their national security, have control over their citizens' data, and maybe even give their local tech industry a boost. But on the other hand, they want to make life convenient for people and avoid a situation where a few giant foreign companies control their entire digital economy. All the different cloud experiences we just talked about, they're just a result of how different countries decide to weigh those priorities.
So why don't you see a big warning label on the box about all this? Well, to be blunt, the companies don't really have a good reason to tell you. Being super open about these limits means getting into sensitive political topics, and it might make you think twice before buying their product. For them, keeping things a little fuzzy is just better for business.
Okay, so we've established the cloud is divided, and companies aren't always going to give you the full story. So what can you actually do about it? Let's get into some practical strategies for how to handle this messy digital world.
Here are three really crucial steps. First, before you go on a trip, do a little homework. Just check and make sure your main cloud service is actually going to work where you're headed.
Second, and this one is so important, always have multiple backups of your most critical data. Put it on another cloud service. Put it on a physical hard drive. Just don't have it in only one place. And third, try not to put all your digital eggs in one basket. Using a mix of different providers is just the smartest way to lower your risk.
So, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. The idea of a perfectly seamless, it just works everywhere cloud is a myth. The reality is that the cloud has very real borders, drawn by policy. And the only way to avoid some seriously frustrating surprises is to understand that and plan ahead.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. It feels like we live in one big connected world, but our digital lives are still being shaped by invisible lines on a map. So it's really worth asking yourself, where do your digital borders truly lie? Thanks for digging into this with me.